You ever had one of those moments where you just sit back, look at the disaster in front of you, and think, yeah, this is about to get biblical? That was me the day they handed me that eviction notice, not saying a word, just sliding a yellowed 1923 water rights deed across the table and watching the gears turn in their heads as the reality set in 35 McMansions about to become accidental lakefront property. See, the Willowbrook Estates HOA thought they could pull a fast one on my family while I was getting shot at in Afghanistan. Built their perfect, soulless suburb right on top of what used to be my grandfather's cattle pasture. Patrolling the streets with tennis racket Karens in golf carts, sipping iced tea and scheming. But here's the thing, they didn't know I'm an Army Corps engineer, and that quiet little earth dam on my property had been waiting 45 years for some genius to build right in its floodplain. You want to talk about satisfaction? Wait until the spillway gates open and a subdivision gets a taste of Texas gravity and federal law. Where are you watching from? Let me tell you about the most beautiful HOA takedown you've ever heard. A tale of water, fraud, and one stubborn veteran named Jake Morrison. That's my 34, third-generation Texan, owner of 47 acres of land just outside Austin. My grandfather, everyone called him Pops, bought the place in '55, back when barbecue shacks outnumbered tech startups 1,000 to 1. Pops was a believer in the land and the neighbors who needed it. In '78, he built a small earth dam, nothing fancy, just good engineering. Rainwater for cattle, extra flow for the folks downstream during droughts. He even got help from the Army Corps, designed it for flood control and watershed management. Someday, this land'll mean something, Pops always said. But at the time it was just a beautiful piece of Texas with cattle and wildflowers. A place where I learned to shoot and got my first taste of freedom. Fast forward. 2 tours in Afghanistan, learning how precious clean water really is, how quick people are to fight over it. Pops passed away while I was still overseas. The land went into trust, managed by my well-meaning, clueless sister Sarah in California. She hired Lanier Land Services to manage it, paid the taxes automatically, but never actually checked the assessments. That, friends, was mistake number 1. Enter our villain, Margaret Maggie Thornwell, 52, president of Willowbrook Estates HOA, married to a city councilman, driving a BMW X7 and wearing tennis outfits like armor. She's got that kind of southern sweetness that makes you check your back pocket for your wallet every time she smiles. Maggie's got a taste for neighborhood beautification, which really means, let's run off anyone who doesn't fit. Her perfume couldn't quite mask the cigarette smoke and entitlement that followed her around like a bad smell. I came home in August 2023, ready to finally breathe. Drove that familiar gravel road, passing the old oak with my initials carved in it, expecting to see rolling pasture and Pop's dam glinting in the sun. Instead, survey stakes, construction crews, concrete trucks scattered across my back 40 like an invasion. I marched up to the foreman, boots crunching in angry dust. "Sorry, buddy," he said. "We got permits. This is Willowbrook Estates now." Called the cops. Officer Martinez arrived, apologetic. Turns out the HOA had filed an adverse possession claim while I was getting shot at overseas. Old law, rarely used right, now a tool for land thieves and developer types. And here comes Maggie herself, gliding up in her little golf cart, syrupy as pecan pie. "Your family abandoned this land, honey," she says. "We're just putting it to good use for the community." I could barely breathe, let alone argue. But when I saw her crews had diverted the creek that fed Pop's dam, watched the water level dropping each day, I knew this wasn't about land anymore. This was war. The first attorney I hired quoted me $85,000 just to challenge the zoning change. Big mistake. Maggie's husband had pushed through a fast-track rezone agricultural to residential, overnight, pure conflict of interest. But my Army training kicked in. While that overpriced lawyer pushed paper, I dug through the county records, and buried in that mess, I found Pop's original dam permit signed by the Army Corps, federal jurisdiction. Here's the kicker. A dam built under federal guidelines means local HOAs can't touch it. This was a federal case now. And just when I thought it couldn't get any juicier, I found a 1923 water rights deed. My great-grandfather had bought senior water rights for the whole Willow Creek watershed, older than the city, older than those McMansions, older than any scheme Maggie could cook up. Meanwhile, Maggie played the victim, bringing in news crews, talking about dangerous dams and children's safety, dabbing her eyes for the cameras, posted on Nextdoor about unstable individuals. Never said my name, but everyone knew. Construction doubled up to finish before I could get a court order. My sister Sarah begged me to just take the money and run. But this wasn't about money. Every night, I watched the water in Pop's dam drop another inch, listened to the hum of concrete trucks, and felt the old fury rise up in me. That's when I called Tony Riggs, old army buddy now with the EPA. He gave it to me straight. If they're diverting a natural waterway without permits, that's a Clean Water Act violation. And your damn federal jurisdiction. I started documenting everything: trail cams, time-stamped photos, flow measurements. The HOA ramped up harassment safety patrols, citations for unsightly structures, noise complaints, wellness checks. Maggie even had the fire marshal, health department, animal control show up the same day. Textbook bureaucratic squeeze play. But I can play that game too. Turns out, the HOA had never filed the required wetlands assessments. The fines? $50,000 a day. And their whole development, built smack in a 100-year floodplain. Their insurance was fraud, lied about flood risks to get coverage. Digging deeper, I found Maggie had run this scheme before her last HOA in Houston paid a $2.3 million EPA fine. She'd fled before the feds could close in. I started connecting with other victims: Mrs. Chun, whose family garden died when the creek was diverted, Miguel Santos, who lost his farm to rezoning. This wasn't isolated, it was systematic. I formed a coalition, brought in Amanda Cross, an environmental lawyer who worked pro bono, and we got organized. Then the city announced they'd seize my property through eminent domain. Maggie's quote in the paper was clear. Sometimes you have to protect the community from itself. They offered $180,000 for land worth nearly $900,000. Then came the viral Facebook post, the staged photo op with concerned mothers, and a media blitz calling me a dangerous, unhinged veteran. But Maggie's biggest mistake? Trying to buy off my sister in California with some story about my mental health issues. That backfired fast. The September rains were coming. I read Pop's journal by lantern light, his entry about opening the spillway in 1980 to help the neighbors through a drought. The dam wasn't about profit, it was about community. The legal path would take too long by then. Nature would flood the development anyway. But I could control it. I mapped the houses, checked the spillway system, untouched since '82, ran numbers. My coalition grew. Miguel brought historical documentation, Mrs. Chin photos. Amanda prepped the lawsuits and federal complaints. I posted warnings, notified the fire department, calculated flows to avoid real harm. We let local news know what was about to happen. Maggie's HOA, realizing the threat, escalated private security, tried to sabotage my dam at 2 a.m. Deputy Rodriguez, tipped by Tony, arrested them red-handed. Maggie hit the morning talk shows, painting me as a terrorist, but the truth was coming out. Meanwhile, the EPA opened a formal investigation. Amanda uncovered that their construction loans were based on fraudulent environmental assessments. If my water rights reverted, their entire development went belly up. At 7:02 a.m., with federal agents and neighbors watching, I opened the spillway to 25%, not a destructive flood, just enough for Willow Creek to run where it always had. Miguel wept, Mrs. Chen's irrigation flowed, and the water returned to its old bed. Maggie shrieked on Facebook Live, trying to spin it, but there was no disaster, just a creek. Restored. Reporters finally saw the truth. Rick, her husband, panic tried to block the spillway with concrete trucks, whose drivers were arrested by federal agents for interfering with an investigation. The dominoes started falling, insurance frozen. All work on the development stopped. City council forced Rick to resign. A RICO investigation opened. At the final courtroom showdown, Maggie's lawyers tried everything, but Amanda and the feds brought mountains of documentation, photos, permits, journal entries, the dam covenant, even Rick's recorded phone calls admitting the whole scam. When Miguel and Mrs. Chun spoke of lost farms and dying gardens, the entire room could feel the weight of what had been stolen, not just from me, but from generations. Judge Walsh had no choice, denied the HOA's claims, confirmed my rights, ordered them to stop interfering, and made it clear that federal law and community service trumped greed every time. As federal agents led Rick away and Maggie tried to disappear, our neighbors gathered by the creek, celebrating not just a victory but a restoration of something deeper. The HOA dissolved, penalties rained down, the development was abandoned. 6 months later, Pop's Dam is in the Army Corps manual as a model of environmental restoration. The creek flows free, the wildlife's back, and the community's stronger than ever. Even Sarah moved home to help run our farm, and Amanda, well, turns out fighting crime together has its perks. The ripple spread across Texas, other communities fighting water theft, eco-festivals celebrating the restoration, kids swimming where McMansions once threatened to stand. My favorite part? Visiting Pop's grave, pouring creek water on the earth, telling him the song's back. Willow Creek Conservation Trust now owns the watershed rights, so nobody will ever steal this water again. But here's the best twist: Maggie's last HOA faced federal RICO prosecution because of our case. One stubborn veteran's fight turned into a movement, and now, from my porch, I watch the water run exactly where it should, every single evening. So let me ask, where do you stand on the line between community and greed? Ever tangled with an HOA? Drop a comment and tell your story. Justice, like water, always finds a way, especially when we fight together. And trust me, the next story? The city tried to steal my neighbor's solar farm. She cut the power to City Hall at the mayor's wedding. But that's a tale for another time. Willow Creek flows free. Wyland, it always will.